Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, why, thank you very much. This is another wonderful afternoon in our speaker series. I want to welcome you all here, and again, thank you for your punctuality. That's another indicator of excellence. So thank you all very, very, very much. I don't know about you, but I have been extraordinarily excited about the journey that we have been on. This is the third and what was billed to be a series of 4, which has now changed to a series of 5. There will be 5 sessions, and make sure you mark your calendars. The first one that we had was with the University of Washington, and we learned quite a bit about the technology known as Lean, and my offer still stands for those of you who attended that and want to know more about Lean. The book that was being recommended, Lean Thinking, I am prepared to buy that book for anyone that wants it. The only requirement is that you have to have lunch with me, because we're going to talk about it. I'm about halfway through reading the book, and I strongly recommend it. So please feel free to let me know if you want to join that book club. And then a couple of weeks ago, we had University of California, Berkeley came to talk to us about their organizational excellence efforts, which by all reports sounded like that was a very successful outing as well. We thought enough about that. We wanted to learn some more of the granular detail that just this past Monday and Tuesday, we sent 4 staff, senior staff, and 3 faculty members who journeyed up to Berkeley, spent the 2 days, and got a chance to look in all the nooks and crannies of how Berkeley operates its organizational excellence operation and its shared services operation. And they came back. I had lunch with them last week, and they came back more enthusiastic than when they left. And not to be disrespectful to University of Washington, we are now planning a trip for half a dozen or so folks to go to University of Washington to learn a little bit more about what they're doing in their lean efforts. But today we have not another university. We have someone who is out of our higher education industry who's come to visit with us from the University of Houston. I've heard extraordinarily positive things about the presentation and the activities that you're going to be engaged in this afternoon, and I'm really, really excited about what we're going to be doing. With that, we also have our chancellor, who is here with us today to evidence and his support to the efforts that we're talking about, and the chancellor has agreed to introduce our speaker. So join me in welcoming our Chancellor, Chancellor Wilcox. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks, Ron. Okay, so now we understand. When we have a contest on campus, the second prize is a book. The third prize is a book and a lunch with Ron. We'll decide what the first prize is with the contest go. I want to thank Ron for his assistance, leadership, and vision in putting these together, and of course, ably assisted by Maria Anguiano and Paul Denieri. I also want to thank all of you, though. We really are, I think, collectively sincere in trying to think about a new future for UCR, and the only important word in that phrase, in some ways, is the we. That's all of us. And the more people, the more heads, and the more passion we have in that reconsideration, the better off we're all going to be. So thanks for taking time out of your busy days to be part of this. Today, as Ron said, we have the great luxury of having yet another expert, somebody who's been there, done that, to come and help us think about our future. And that person is Omar Reid, who's the Director of Human Resources for the City of Houston. For those who don't know, Houston's the fourth largest city in the country. New York, Chicago, L.A., and Houston. So it's a big operation. And Omar is recognized for all that he's done there. Some of the things: created a health assessment and wellness drive, revamped the employee evaluation system, fully automated benefits enrollment and personnel transactions, enhanced professional staff development. Things that we have talked about and are in the process of doing here at UCR. So having somebody who's done it well, and been recognized for that will be a great assistance to us. Omar's got a bachelor's degree from the University of Houston, not the city of Houston, Ron, an MBA from Texas Southern University, and has written a book himself, The Traffic of Life, Characteristics of Effective Leadership. Please help me in welcoming Omar Reid.
Am I on? Testing? Okay, I'm on. Thank you very much, and thank you for that introduction, Chancellor Wilcox. And I'm kind of a wanderer, so you're going to see me walk back and forth across the stage here today. I'm not going to stand in one particular location. But first, let me start off by thanking the members of the UC Riverside staff who invited me here to speak. The last 2 days have been overwhelming. The hospitality displayed to me has been absolutely phenomenal. And you guys are on a journey that we have already started, and we got a head start running before you in the city of Houston. And it is certainly my pleasure and privilege to be here today to speak to this audience about some of the things that we've been able to accomplish at the city of Houston. There are two quotes that will forever be associated with the United States manned space flight. Those two quotes, when started, can be completed by most. The first quote, those quotes epitomize the courage and entrepreneurial spirit of the time. The first quote: one small step for man, what? One giant leap for what? One giant leap for mankind. The second quote was uttered from outer space 45 years ago yesterday. 45 years ago yesterday, as 3 astronauts were traveling in Apollo 13, something sudden and unexpected happened. An oxygen tank exploded. And when that oxygen tank exploded, the occupants of that space capsule knew that the trip was not going to be the same. You see, the words that were uttered from outer space 45 years ago, yesterday, was, okay, Houston, we've had a problem. Some of you probably could have completed that one. Today I'm going to talk to you about our journey from operational inefficiency to operational excellence. And we're going to share some of the lessons learned along the way. I want to commend the people who organized this operational excellence venue and brought you all in here today, because this is a tough subject to talk about, because there's a lot of resistance to change. And we're going to talk a little bit about change and change management. But before we go any further, I need to find out how many people here know anything, have ever been to Houston, Texas. Anybody ever been here? Okay, we got a lot of people. All right, good. Thank you for coming to Houston, Texas. And Ron, I'm going to take you up because you talked about going to Washington and you went to Berkeley, so I want you to bring your team to Houston, Texas too, okay? So don't leave us out, okay? We want you to come to Houston. I'm just going to give you a couple facts about Houston that makes it such a great city. As the Chancellor said, Houston is the 4th largest city in the United States of America. About 2.2 million people live in the city of Houston. In the city of Houston, we have about 22,000 employees that work for us. The city of Houston is a huge geographic city. Over 600 square miles encompass the city of Houston. As a matter of fact, the cities of Washington, D.C., Boston, Seattle, San Francisco, Miami, and Minneapolis can fit inside of the geographical boundaries of the city of Houston. So it's a very big city. Houston has the second highest concentration of Fortune 500 companies headquartered in our city, over 26. New York City is first with 72, Dallas is third with 19. But Houston is also a very ethnically diverse city. As a matter of fact, it is the most ethnically diverse city as of the last census in the United States of America. Now, I know you're probably saying, Omar, no, New York City is the most ethnically diverse city, but it is not New York City, it is actually Houston, Texas. And actually, 38.8% Anglo, 35.9% Hispanic, 16.7% African American, 6.7% Asian, and 1.65% people other live inside the city of Houston. So it is a very ethnically diverse city, a melting pot along the United States border, in the United States. The last quote, or the last thing that I'll tell you about Texas is a major part of our economy is driven by healthcare and energy. As a matter of fact, some of you may have heard that Houston is the energy capital of the world. Operational excellence and how the city of Houston reached new heights of performance. Nelson Mandela was an amazing human being. Whether you agree with his politics or not, Nelson Mandela lived an incredible life. From prisoner to president. Not too many people could say that. From an activist who advocated for the people who were in leadership positions to the overthrow of apartheid, Nelson Mandela lived an incredible life. However, one of the things that I will forever remember about Nelson Mandela is a quote that he made. And after Nelson Mandela was elected president of South Africa, he was being interviewed. And I have yet to be able to find out what the question was, but the quote that he made after he was interviewed was something that has resonated with me and continues to cause me to think. The quote that he made was, "Impossible is only impossible until it is done." And so if you think about that in the context of organizational excellence, impossible is only impossible till it is done. And I'm going to add one little part to that. This is not Nelson Mandela. Until you take the red pill. So until you take the red pill. So before I start talking about operational excellence, I've got to talk a little bit about where I came from. And where I came from was UPS. For 26 years of my life, I was a UPSer. 24 of those years were in management. So 26 years, 24 in management at UPS. And UPS is an incredible company. It's really a machine. And I was talking to somebody last night, and they said they described UPS as a machine, and it really is a machine. But let me tell you a little bit about what you don't know about UPS, because most people think about UPS as the brown trucks that you see on the street. But UPS, first and foremost, is a logistics company. They have an incredible logistics system set up inside of UPS. As a matter of fact, UPS is probably a model of logistics that any company who wanted to know anything about logistics could study. And so as UPS is a logistics company, one of the things that they're able to do, they're able to get things from here to there very efficiently. As a matter of fact, during my time at UPS, 24 years in management, we delivered about 16 million packages a day. 16 million, that's a lot of parcels to move throughout an organization. However, of those 16 million parcels that we deliver today, 99.8% made it on time. That's not a bad record for those of you who can do the math. 99.8% of 16 million made it on time. But at UPS, one of the things that we focused on was not the 99.8% of packages that made it on time. We focused on the 0.2% of packages that did not make it on time because we wanted to get the inefficiency out of the operations and out of the organization. And so UPS is an incredible logistics company. But UPS is also an incredible technology company. In the late 1990s, UPS spent over $1 billion per year on their technological infrastructure. Now, why is that important? Because UPS understood the importance of investing in technology, because one of the things that people want today is what? Information. They want to know where that package is, and they want to be able to track it. And so in the late 1990s, as UPS was spending over $1 billion per year to enhance their technology, it was so that they could be more responsive to the needs of their customers. And so UPS is an incredible logistics company. UPS is an incredible technology company. But first and foremost, UPS is an incredible engineering company. And everything at UPS has a measure. And when I talk about everything at UPS has a measure, that is every single thing that they do inside of that organization has a measure. And I'm going to talk to you about one of the measures that probably most of you are not familiar with, but you've probably had some experience with it. So a UPS driver is driving down the street. He pulls up to your house, in front of your house, and he stops his car. The first thing that he's going to do, and all UPS drivers have been taught this, is he's going to pull up his emergency brake. He's going to pull up his emergency brake. He's going to put his car in first gear, because that's the training that every UPS driver has received, and I was part of that training and training those drivers. Pull up his emergency brake, put his car in first gear, and then he's going to go into the back of his truck, and he's going to get out your package out of a 5-feet selection area. So when I talk about a 5-feet selection area, he's going to take one step inside the door, and he's going to get your package, because he's set up those packages sequentially to make sure that your package is the next package that he will deliver. So to get your package out of that 5-feet selection area, he's going to step down out of his package car, and he's going to walk up to your front door, and he's going to put that package at your front door. And the next thing that he's going to do is he's going to ring your doorbell. Well, that's what he's supposed to do. Hopefully he rang your doorbell when he delivered your package. And he's going to go get back in his package car, and he's going to take off. Ladies and gentlemen, what you've just experienced is what is called a ring bell wait. And at every UPS stop, that is a measurement that UPS has done for every address in the United States of America. So you may live at an address that has a small distance between the street and your front door. That distance has been measured. If you live at a street where you have a long distance between your front door and the driveway, that distance has also been measured. So that ring bell wait is a measurement. And so when the UPS driver gets back to his truck, back to his delivery station at the end of the night, one of the things that they're going to do is they're going to download all of his information. And they're going to be able to tell by the next morning if that driver had completed that delivery route in the time that was allotted to him. And so that ring bell wait, but everything else at UPS has a measurement. And so that's sort of the philosophy and management style that I took into the city of Houston when I went there in 2010. So in March of 2010, we had a few goals in the city of Houston. First goal was the centralization of HR. We wanted to centralize HR. We had a decentralized HR model, and we wanted to centralize HR. And we wanted to centralize it for a lot of reasons that I'll get into a little bit later in the presentation. We wanted to reduce the liability to the city. One of the things that HR is charged with is making sure that they protect the organization. Okay, and so we wanted to reduce the liability to the organization. There have been some things that happened prior to me arriving in 2010 that really made the city have a high amount of liability. And so we wanted to reduce the liability to the city. We wanted to improve efficiencies, unlike what you all are talking about here today. We wanted to improve efficiencies. We had a very inefficient system. I had come from UPS, and one of the things that I looked at was how can we improve efficiencies. As a matter of fact, in my conversations with my boss, two things really stood out: improve efficiencies and elimination of redundancies. You all have been talking about the lean process. Ron has offered to buy you a book and take you to lunch. I think that is the third prize, or was it the second? I can't remember. But whatever prize it was, you've been talking a lot about lean, and certainly eliminating redundancies is something that we knew we had to do as the city of Houston. But we also knew that we had some problems. And one of the problems that we had was we had a transactionally focused organization. Our HR department was a transactionally focused organization that if you needed to fill out a form, we could make sure that we were the best form takers and filler outers in the United States of America. There was not an HR department in the country that was better than us at making sure that we got the transactions completed. We also had decentralized organizations with inconsistent processes. And so we have 24 separate departments inside the city of Houston. Each one of those departments, for the most part, had their own HR department. And because of those own HR departments reporting up to those own organizations in those silos or smokestacks, it was very inefficient and very inconsistent. But we also had a very risk-averse culture. And I'm quite sure that's not a problem you all have here. You all are very courageous and bold, but we had a very risk-averse culture. I'll talk about it in just a second. We had a command and control leadership model. The people at the top of the organization made all the decisions. They wanted to they were very command and control centered, and they wanted to make all the decisions. We had a serious lack of technology inside the city of Houston. And I'll talk to you in just a second about our serious lack of technology. But we also had a $50 to $70 million budget deficit my first year on the job. And so we had a burning platform. We knew, because we had such a large budget deficit, that we were going to have to have a reduction in force. Not get rid of people, we're going to have a reduction in force. But let me just step back for a second to our lack of technology. So one of the things that I did when I knew that I was coming here was I started to go around and collect things that I had been seeing around the office just last week. So the first thing that I collected off of somebody's desk just last week. Now, our technology has improved, so these things that I'm going to show you is not indicative of where we are as a city right now, but some people actually had some things on their desk last week. Anybody seen this before? You know what this is? Why in the world would somebody still have this on their desk in 2015? Can you see that in the back of the room? Know what this is? It's a VHS cassette. So just last week, I went around. I was like, let me go and see what I can find to show them, to talk about our lack of technology. I don't know what they're doing with it, but it's brand new. It's never been opened. So maybe VHS is coming back and I just don't know about it. But even if VHS is coming back, most of you know this is not coming back, right? I'm hoping that this is not coming back. We've moved to iPads and iPhones, and so why somebody would still have a floppy disk on their desk, I have no idea. But certainly that's something that they still have on their desk. This last thing, you know what that is? Those of you who are born in the 1990s probably don't know what this is. This is a cassette. Okay, so just so you understand, this is a cassette, and this was also on somebody's desk. Now, this is not where we are right now as an organization. I want to make sure, Ron, you didn't bring me here to talk about cassettes and VHS tapes. But one of the things that we had a serious problem with in 2010, when I came to the city, was I started going around and visiting different departments, as many leaders do when they get new assignments. They start going to visit and they start saying, okay, well, what can I do? What can I fix? What are the things that we need to work on? And one of the things that I found when I got to the city of Houston, and I just did not understand, was that we had typewriters in 2010. And y'all don't still have typewriters here, do y'all? I'm not using them, I hope. Well, but we had typewriters in 2010. And we also had this form right here, which is Form 201. And this is the form that we filled out on typewriters in 2010. Now, what is this form used for? This form is used for personnel actions. Now you say, Omar, I'm not an HR person. Tell me what a personnel action is. Why did you need to Form 201? Well, A personnel action very simply is if you want to get a promotion, you fill out a what? A Form 201. So if you want to promote somebody, you got to fill out a Form 201. If you want to give somebody a salary increase, you fill out a Form 201. Now, Form 201 in itself was what we had to use, but Form 201 is a very unique form because it is a 5-part form. And in between each part of Form 201 is carbon paper. And so in 2010, as a city, we were still using typewriters and carbon paper to do personnel actions. And so the first question I asked myself is, why did I take this job? Because we certainly had a serious problem in 2010. Our department was also a challenged department. Our HR department was seen as the department of no. As a matter of fact, if you wanted to get something done, the best way to not get it done was to send it to HR, okay, because we were going to stop it. As a matter of fact, whatever people were trying to get accomplished as I went on my listening tour, they said, Omar, if we send it to your department, we absolutely, positively know it's not going to happen. And when I got there, I found some of those same things happening. And so I started having conversations with my staff, and I started to say, well, why won't we do that? Because we're the department that enforces the rules, and we want to make sure that we protect the organization. And so I kept thinking, well, that's a little bit backwards, because we needed to be more collaborative, and we needed to be a department that helped people facilitate it. But we were also customer unfriendly and challenged. So not only were we the department of no, we were rude to you when we said no. We said no and we meant no. So you don't ask us again, come back with, because we're just going to get ruder and ruder as you ask us more and more. You're going to know that you just came to visit the HR department. So I don't think you want to keep asking us that question, was sort of the attitude and the mindset that we had. To most of the outside world, we were seen as a black hole. Something would come into our department and it would absolutely disappear after it came into our department. And over, I would get paperwork, and remember I got these Form 201s, and I would get it and I would say, well, this is from April and this is May. Why am I just getting it right now? And nobody ever had an explanation. So it had been sitting someplace. So it really was the epitome of a black hole. But we also had some problems with our management team. Now, my management team was resistant to change. They were complacent as they were satisfied. As a matter of fact, the person who had this job for me, the person who had this job for me lasted 67 days. And so there was a betting pool when I got in there that I wouldn't last 90. But what they didn't know was I didn't have another job, so I had to stay. I was like, I ain't got another job, so I've got to stay. But my management team was so resistant to change it that we would have meetings in my office, and it was only 4 or 5 of us that could sit around the table inside of my office. And as soon as we would get up from that meeting, they would go outside the room and they would change the plan. And I was like, well, we just talked about this. We just had a discussion about what we were going to do. And so guess where those people are? They no longer work for me. But certainly they were resistant to change, and our poor employees. Look at that guy right there. Our employees were fearful, they were compliant but not committed, and they certainly lacked any type of entrepreneurial drive. And when I talk about employees that were fearful, my office, like most offices for executives, is at the end of the hall on the corner. And the employees were actually afraid to walk past the other offices that they had to walk to get to my office. And so I started having these town hall meetings, and one of the things that I emphasized in the town hall meeting was I read all my own emails. As a matter of fact, nobody reads my emails. I read and respond to every email that I get. And so I started telling employees, because I noticed that the volume of people, after I created this open door policy for employees to come speak to us, the volume of people was not that high. It just weren't people. They just weren't coming. Every once in a while, some brave soul would trudge their way down the hall, and they would come see me, and they would sit down. And I knew that as soon as they got out of the office with me, that somebody was calling somebody else to say, hey, I just saw such and such in Omar's office. He's probably going to come talk to you. And so one of the things that I said at my town hall meetings was, if you send me an email, I will read that email, but I will also meet you wherever you want to meet at. And so we had a lot of meetings across the street, down the hall, by the water fountain, for me to actually try to find out what was going on inside of the organization. Because really the people who have the most information about what's going on inside the organization are who? The people inside the organization. Because my management team, their job was, or they thought their job was to filter information away from me. And by them filtering information away from me, it became much more difficult for me to make good decisions. And so I actually had one person, and I'll just tell you, I won't say her name because this is going to be played back in Houston, and I don't want to. Actually, it was a him. It was not a her. It was a him. So it was a him. Okay, so anybody that sees this video back in Houston, it was actually a him. But this person was actually a double agent for me. And what would happen was there was a team of people, and they would have meetings. And we were deciding something very important. It was who was going to be our next healthcare vendor. And this had major implications. But what would happen was we would have a meeting and we would all sit down, and just like the meetings in our office, we would agree upon a plan. And certainly we were leaning towards this one vendor, and certainly I was like, okay, well, it looks like this vendor is the best vendor for us. Their pricing looks good. They look like they're going to be able to help us get where we need to go. But the people on my team, they didn't want that vendor, so they came up with a different plan. But my double agent inside of the meetings would come back and say, okay, here's what they're going to do next. And they were just amazed that every time they came up with something different, I was already ready for them and say, okay, good, that's a good point. Let's go more, keep going forward in this direction. And so our employees were certainly fearful and lacked entrepreneurial direction. Human resources needs to be a facilitator. Human resources needs to be a strategic partner. One of the things that I started talking about very early on in my tenure with the city of Houston was, how can human resource be a strategic partner? Now, I must admit that there were some reasons that I talked about human resource being a strategic partner, because I had come from the private sector and I really didn't know that much about government. So me going in and trying to tell people how to run their business was not going to work. Now, there were some people in my department who had been there for a very long time who thought that they knew how to do the jobs in other departments. Remember, I told you there were 24 departments. We had from an aviation department all the way to a solid waste department, housing, health department, all of these different departments inside of a city. And one of the things, because I came from the private sector, UPS 26 years, management 24 years, I knew nothing about any of those departments. As a matter of fact, I thought the people that you paid your water bill to were all the same and they all worked for one city. But one of the things I started finding out was, just like here, there are different departments that are responsible for different things. And so I started talking this language about how can we be a strategic partner with those departments. And I also started talking about how we could be collaborative. You see, I have a saying, and people come into my office. Every new employee that comes into my office, I sit down and I tell them, and I give them a 30-minute interview or a 30-minute conversation, and I tell them, we are hiring you here because we want to be more successful and we want you to contribute to our team. Because if I walk into the room and I'm always the smartest person in the room, then guess what? Some of you are going to start keeping your ideas to yourself. Some of you are not going to participate. And so we wanted to be more collaborative, and we started talking about collaboration and participation. But one of the other things that we started talking about were rules for success in a relationship. And I have 3 rules for success, and I guarantee you, if you follow these 3 rules for success in both your personal and your professional life, that you're going to be successful. I have practiced them for the last 26 years or more than 20 years in my professional life, but I practice them every day in my personal life. And those rules for success are universal. So no matter who you are, where you are on the org chart, no matter where you are, you can be successful if you follow these rules. And we started talking about these rules and how do you build relationships. So rule number 1, the basis for any successful relationship if that relationship is going to be successful, those two people engaged in that relationship, or however many people is engaging in that relationship, there has to be trust. Husband, wife, parent, child, employee, employer, pastor, parishioner. None of those relationships will be successful if there's not first trust established. And so one of the things that I did, one of the things that I started out doing, was I started out by entering into relationships with trust. You see, I was new to the organization. I didn't have all the old history that other people had. Well, I don't trust her or I don't trust him. I was like, I trust everybody. And that's sort of how I go into every relationship. I trust everybody until, guess what? They show me I can't trust them. Now, my wife is exactly the opposite. She doesn't trust anybody. And I told her I was going to say it, and she said it was okay if I said it. So I've said it. The people coming to our house to paint our house, they're painters, sweetheart. They're coming to paint the house. We don't have to put the TV up. I'm not sure. This is what they do every day. So, they go to people's house, they paint, and things don't come up missing. But my wife trusts nobody, and I trust everybody. I am actually predisposed to trust people. I'm genetically wired. I trust people until they show me that I can't trust them anymore. Rule number 2, communication. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, which means what? We should listen more than we talk. Why is listening so important? Because if you listen, guess what you can find out? You can find out what is important to the other person. And once you find out what's important to the other person, if you're able to help them with what's important to them, guess what? Your relationship is going to be much better. I liken it to dating. So just think back, whenever you were first dating somebody, one of the things that you did was you listened a lot to them. And you found out what was important to them. Guys, I remember when I was dating my wife, one of the things I needed to find out was what was her favorite color, what was her favorite flower, what was her favorite food, what was her favorite movie, all those types of things that you find out when you start engaging in a relationship with someone else. And that's communication, and that's listening. And listening means active listening. And so we started listening to our customers. We started saying, what's important to our customers? Why do we continue to create all these HR things that aren't important to our customers? The last rule for success in a relationship is perception is reality. I'm sorry, I forgot to click. All right, I want my checks to come up there. So perception is reality. If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, what is it? It's a duck. No matter how many times I tell you that it's a swan, chicken, peacock, pheasant, or any other yard bird, you keep seeing duck. And so one of the things that we have to do if we're going to be successful in a relationship is put ourselves in the other person's shoes and try to see it from their perspective. I have not always been a HR director. As a matter of fact, I remember when I was a poor, broke college student at the University of Houston. And so I'm able to not just look at things from an HR perspective, I'm also able to look at things from a poor, broke college student perspective. One of the things that I was talking about today at lunch was the great relationships that we have with our unions in the city of Houston. We have 3 unions. We have a fire union, we have a police union, and we have a municipal employees union. And my relationship with each one of those union presidents is great. As a matter of fact, I work at it. I want to make sure that we have great relationships so when we go into negotiations like we are right now, that we can sit down from the table and we can have a mutual level of respect about what's going on in those negotiations. Have you ever tried to negotiate with somebody that you had a bad relationship with? Generally doesn't work too well. And so as we start this perception as reality, it is imperative if you're going to be successful. And so one of the things that I started reaching out to was my peers, and I started using these philosophies or these rules right here for my success with my peers. Now, the other thing that we started to do was we started to talk about leadership. And we stopped talking about management. You see, leadership is creating a vision. Leadership is going out and making sure that the vision is cast correctly. And I told everybody inside of my organization, and I continue to say it, that leadership is personal and not positional. Now, some people may want to challenge me on that, But every single day, I talk about leadership. And I'm actually a leadership fanatic. So if you ever want to start me talking about something that I absolutely love to talk about, start talking about leadership. I've read books from Gandhi to Abraham Lincoln on leadership. But when I say leadership is personal, not positional, no matter what position you occupy on the org chart, whatever org chart that is, if nobody's following you, are you really the leader? Probably not. But each and every one of us is a leader every single day in our own personal lives. Some of you have families, some of you just lead yourself if you're a single individual. But all of us have some responsibility to be leaders. And we started talking about how do we become better leaders? How do we focus on leadership and not focus on management? Because management is a totally different ballgame. We were good at managing. We knew how to manage people. So we started talking about leadership. But we also, after we started talking about leadership, we had to create a strategic direction. And under that strategic direction, we created some vision, value, missions, and goals. And those vision, value, missions, and goals were something certainly to be recognized universally for human resource excellence. Integrity, customer service, accountability, honesty, and respect. Anybody disagree with those being values? Most people would say, those are pretty good values. Not a lot of people are going to disagree with that. We created a mission statement. You guys are in the process of creating a mission statement here if you have not already done it. But we wanted to be a strategic partner. I told you we wanted to be a strategic partnership. We started talking about trust. We started talking about leadership. And then our goal was quite simply to exceed the expectations of our shareholders, our stakeholders. And so we created some strategic direction. We also talked about being a value-added partner. I told you in 2010, going into 2010, we had a $50 to $70 million budget deficit. And so one of the things that we started worrying about, or people started worrying about, am I going to have a job? Because we knew that we were going to have a reduction in force, and we reduced to almost 700 people going into 2011. But how do we make sure that we still had as many HR people on the payroll as we could? And I started talking about this concept of value add. And the question became, what value are you adding to the organization by doing the job that you do? And so we started talking about adding value to our employees and how can we add value to employees or add value to the organization through our employees, and that was attracting and retaining employees. We also talked about how do we add value as management, making sure that our compensation system was in line. And then how do we add value through our benefits? And I'll talk to you in a second about our health benefits platform that has been extremely successful. We started talking about business objectives and what were our business objectives that we needed to focus on. And the number one thing that we said we needed to focus on was understanding the needs of our clients. Now, we also wanted to make sure that we developed, once again, strategic partnerships. But besides being value-added, we also wanted to be customer-focused. We wanted to be metric-driven, and we wanted to be people-centered. Those are things that were important to us as we started to align our business objectives. What were the needs of our customers? Human capital, recruiting, and employee relations were some of the other things that we talked about from a strategic and business objective perspective. But what were some of our challenges? The number one challenge was a lot of people didn't want to participate. They simply said, we don't want to participate. We like our siloed organization. We like this organization the way it is. And you're going to get some of that same resistance as you continue to move towards operational and organizational excellence. Some people just don't want to participate. And so what do you do with those people who don't want to participate? How do you convince them that this is the best thing to do? Now, my burning platform was, we're going to have a $50 to $70 million budget deficit, and people are going to lose jobs. So either you participate, or you may be a victim to the circumstances that are going to be presented to you. But a lot of people certainly didn't buy in to what we were trying to do. And we also had problems obtaining vital information because we had some antiquated processes. Actually, we were an analog organization living in a digital world. But we had some great opportunities. And our opportunity started with our executive champion. Now, you heard me say that I work, and I think I said it, I work for the mayor of the city of Houston. Houston has a strong mayoral form of government. As a matter of fact, the mayor is the final adjudicator in all matters in the city of Houston. And she was supportive of what we were trying to do. And so by having that executive champion who was supportive of what we were trying to do, it made everything sort of work out in the way that we wanted to work out. So I'll give you an example. I was having a meeting with one of my colleagues, and he was absolutely set against the transformation that we were talking about. As a matter of fact, he said, Omar, you don't have this, you don't have that. The people are better if they stay inside of my organization, and I'm keeping them. And I said, okay, I can't make you give them to me. But I said, I had an idea. I said, okay, I think I have the information that you're looking for back in my office. If we can just walk back over there, I can share that information with you. And so we walked back over to my office, and I was able to pull out the book, and lo and behold, all the information that he asked for, we had covered it with him. I was able to cover it with him. Now, the interesting thing was he had a member of his team that was on our committee as we were talking about making this transition, but that information was not flowing back to him. But his answer still was no. So he didn't care. I had the information. He still didn't care. And so what did I do? I went to my adjudicator. I said, Mayor, here's the situation. And the adjudicator said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go in the direction that Omar wants to go in, and either you can go in that direction or you can find another job. And so he didn't have to find another job. He just went in the direction that we wanted to go in. The other opportunity was to start saving costs, cross-utilization of HR resources, and business acumen. One of the things that we found was that we had a low level of business acumen across the organization. And we needed to improve the business acumen of our HR partners if we were going to be successful. Here is just a snapshot of our department right now. We have 267 full-time employees. I have about a $410 million budget, and some of that, as you can see how it's broken out. But so it's not a small department by any means of imagination. Operational improvements that we made prior to consolidation. Prior to consolidation, there were 600 HR employees across the city performing HR functions. That gave us a staffing ratio of about 1 for 38. So one HR person for every 38 people across the city. Post-consolidation, there are 128 full-time employees performing HR duties, and that gives us a staffing ratio of about 1 for 120. So as you can see, we were really able to improve our operation in our staffing ratio. We also did some things in 2011, 11, 12, 2012, 13. But one of the first things that we had to do was we had to make sure that we had the right people in the right seats on the bus. Some of you probably read Jim Collins' book, Good to Great. And one of the things Collins talked about is making sure that you had the right people in the right seats on the bus. And so we made sure that we had the right person in the right job at the right place. Some of those other things, business processes, I won't bore you with them, but those are some of the things that we did. But one of the things that we're doing right now in 2014, 2015, is we're creating a strategic plan, much like you're doing here. And so right now, if you could play our strategic plan, we actually created a video for our strategic plan. And so we're working on a strategic plan right now. Thank you. Some of our significant accomplishments certainly are redesigning our health plan. And so let me just talk to you for a second about the redesign of our health plan, because I think it's important for you to understand. In 2010, we had a very unhealthy workforce. As a matter of fact, we had one of the most unhealthy workforces that I had ever come across. We paid our employees $50 to take a health risk assessment. And from that $50 payment that we paid our employees to take a health risk assessment, about 9% of our employees participated in that health risk assessment. Well, let me step back for just a second. Because in 2010, we were paying about $300 million per year for health benefits for our employees and their dependents. Paid them $50 to take a health risk assessment. 9% of the people participated in our health risk assessment. And this goes back to my UPS, I need information to make decision. So what we decided was we were no longer going to pay our people to take health risk assessment. Our people were going to pay us if they didn't take the health risk assessment. They were going to pay us $300 per year if they didn't take the health risk assessment. So we went from 9% taking it to, well, if you don't take it, you have to pay me. 93% took it. So it was pretty good incentive for people to take it. But what that health risk assessment allowed us to do was to start finding conditions in our workforce. As a matter of fact, the year after we implemented our health risk assessment, our costs went up $14 million above what we had planned them to be. And our costs going up $14 million certainly was not job security for Omar. Okay, so it was like, I need to figure out what happened. But we actually knew that it was going to happen because our employees stay with us forever. They never leave. They come to us as young people, and they stay with us all the way through retirement. And so what happened that first year was we started to find conditions that people didn't know they had. And we found people who had stage 4 cancer. We found people who were diabetics. We found people who had high cholesterol. We found all of these health conditions that, if left untreated, would have led people to the most expensive place to treat those health conditions, which is the emergency room. And our people were actually using the emergency room to some extent as their primary care physician. And so over the last 4 years, we've implemented some things that I believe are really revolutionary in terms of healthcare. Because all of these chronic conditions that we started to find out about, we started to say, what are we going to do about them? So obviously the one thing that you always do when you implement these robust wellness programs is you start to educate people. You got diabetes, we have diabetes educators to start talking to you. But we went a step further. And the step further that we went was, we started saying, if you're a diabetic and you're on our medical plan, we're going to give you your medication for free. And so every person that's a diabetic that's on our medical plan has the ability to get their medication for free. As a matter of fact, not only did we do it with our diabetics, we also did it with our people who have high blood pressure, so hypertensive. Our people who have high cholesterol get their medication for free. And on May the 1st, our asthmatics are going to start getting their medication for free. Now, why are we doing that? Well, if you start looking at the numbers tell you exactly why you should do it. Our asthmatics in 2014 cost us $8.2 million on emergency room and urgent care visits. $8.2 million. For me to give all of our asthmatics their medication for free cost $300,000. And so giving them medication for free, guess what? I increased their adherence, and guess what? I potentially reduced the amount of emergency room visits that we get. So if I only save $1 million, guess what? I'm still $700,000 to the good. But every $1 million that I start to save, guess what? Is money that we don't have to spend on health care. The mayor said that there were 2 things that were unsustainable when she came into office. One was pensions. The second one was health care. Well, on Thursday, she's going to give her State of the City speech. And one of the things she's not going to talk about is unsustainable anymore, is health care. Because right now, sitting in our health care reserve account is $60 million. From the changes that we implemented, from a $14 million deficit to today, $60 million sitting in a bank account is a tremendous success story around health benefits. We've designed and deployed some new performance measures. We revamped completely our performance review system. We also increased our leadership program participation. The next one that I want to talk about is what we are right now as an organization. We certainly are a high-performance organization. We are absolutely technologically innovative. We've empowered our employees. We have a leadership model that is sustainable, and we also are transformationally focused. This quote right here says, it's not what your organization looks at that matters, it's what it sees. So in conclusion, as I start to wrap up here, this past weekend in Houston was a really weird weekend. We got a lot of rain in the city of Houston this past weekend, which was good and bad. Because I'm an outside person, it was sort of bad because I wasn't able to get out as much. As a matter of fact, I've got a bicycle ride coming up this weekend where I'm riding 170 miles over 2 days. And I really didn't get a chance to train this weekend like I needed to. So the rain was really sort of a downer. But it was good in another regard because my wife wanted me to plant grass. And so this weekend I got to plant the grass. And guess what? I didn't have to water it. God watered it for me. But this weekend was really weird because I spent a lot of time inside, which is something I normally don't get an opportunity to do. And in spending time inside, I watched television, which is also something that I don't do a lot of. But this weekend was a good weekend because two of my favorite movies were on this weekend. And so as I was clicking through the channel surfing, two of my favorite movies were on. First movie that was on, and I didn't get to watch either one of them through the whole movie, but first movie that was on American Movie Classic and was The Godfather. Now, I am a big Godfather fan. I am Godfather 1, 2. I love Make You an Offer You Can't Refuse, and I love Luca Brasi Sleeps with the Fish, and I've got all these things from Godfather 1 that I love. The second movie that was on this weekend that I love is Moneyball. How many of you ever seen Moneyball? Okay, I saw the movie, read the book. Great movie, great book. As a matter of fact, I took my whole executive team with me to the movie to watch Moneyball. But I was smart when I took them to the movie with me because anything you do in government, there's liable to be a reporter around the corner. And so when we went to see Moneyball, we went to an 11 o'clock matinee, so we went during work. But after the movie, I said, okay, you guys go out first. And if you see a reporter, let me know. I'm going to stay inside the movie so that I don't become a front page news item. Omar takes his HR team to the movie in the middle of the day. It's the weirdest thing what newspapers and reporters pay attention to. My third favorite movie, Remember the Titans. Anybody ever seen Remember the Titans? Okay, so that was another one of my... you guys are shaking your head. Good. I'm glad you like those movies. But one of the movies that I like and was not on this weekend was The Matrix. So this is absolutely one of my favorite movies too. So 4 favorite movies, and The Matrix is one of my favorite movies. And if I could ask the ambassadors, organizational ambassadors, to pass out the things at their table right now, we're just going to take a slight break, okay? So it's going to take like 5 seconds. So just pass out those things at your table right now. Give them to everybody at your table. And I'm going to conclude in talking about the Matrix. So don't read it. Stop. Don't read it. I know you want to read it. That's why I didn't give it to you yet. Don't read it. Don't read it. One of my favorite scenes in the Matrix is a scene that is very early in the Matrix. You see, Lawrence Fishburne, who is Morpheus, is sitting down in the chair, and he's sitting down and he's facing Keanu Reeves, who is Neo. And he says to him, do you know what the Matrix is? And he says, no, tell me what the Matrix is. He says, the Matrix is the truth. And right now I'm giving you an opportunity to learn about the truth. And so he gives him some more other things. And he says, right now in my hand, I have 2 pills, a red pill and a blue pill. And he says, you can take the blue pill and you'll wake up tomorrow and everything will be the same. You'll just go back to your normal ho-hum-drum life. He said, but if you take this red pill, you're going to get some amazing powers. You're going to enter the Matrix. You're the chosen one. You're the one who everybody has been waiting on. Now, what I've just passed out to you, some of you got red pills and some of you got blue pills. I don't know what pill you got, but every day when I go to work, when I get there, I take the red pill. Because the greatest gift that is given to us is not one that any of us has earned. It's really not one any of us deserve. It's the gift of a new day. And that's something that is bestowed upon us by the Master. Every single day when I wake up, I take the red pill. Now, my team is telling me they're taking the red pill, but I guess they're probably taking the blue pill and just saying, we take the red pill too. Every day, the greatest gift that is given to me is an opportunity to get up and take that red pill and do something that makes a difference inside the city of Houston. I thank each of you for your time today. And before we go any further, there's one person who has really been supportive of me being able to, well, actually two people who have been very supportive of me being here today and making this presentation work the way that it just worked. And I want to certainly recognize Crystal, who is sitting back there. Crystal, thank you so much. Crystal worked tirelessly with my assistant, Norma, in Houston to make sure that all of my props were here, that the videos worked. And so I certainly want to thank her. But I also want to thank the people who had an opportunity to see me speak in San Diego. So if you saw me speak in San Diego, would you please stand up so we can give you a round of applause too? Thank you very much. And so if you didn't like what I had to say, blame them, okay? Find them after I leave and blame them. So I think at this point, we take questions. Is that right? So they're shaking their head. We take questions. And so does anybody have any questions? Oh, okay, here's one person already with a question.
Would you speak to the performance management and performance appraisal process? You said you totally revised it. It'd be interesting to see what you did.
Okay, so one of the things that I found out when I got to the city was everybody complained, from the lowest level person to anybody that I could find, about our performance appraisal process. It was cumbersome. It was challenging to use. It was nobody believed in the scores that people received from it. And so we went into negotiations with our union, and one of the things that we said was we wanted to revamp the performance appraisal process. We started by sitting down and we invited people from the outside. We invited HR people from the outside to help us revamp our performance appraisal process. And we started with 4 union members, 4 city members, and 3 people from the outside who had some experience with performance appraisals. And what we came up with was a performance appraisal system that was much simpler, that had 4 at most SMART goals that were measurable. SMART means specific, measurable, attainable, time-bound, and they were quantifiable. And so we started with 4 SMART goals and 4 behavior factors. And we said everybody or 5 behavior factors. And we said everybody has to have a SMART goal, at least 4 SMART goals. And then in conjunction with that, we put every single one of our management persons back through training on how do you create a SMART goal. And so the union was very appreciative of that, but also our employees were appreciative. And then we also took the extra step of putting our training for our managers and our supervisors online. So one of the things that I didn't tell you about that we accomplished in the city of Houston over my tenure there was that we took our learning management system, our LMS, and our talent system, and we moved it to the cloud. And by moving it to the cloud, one of the things that it allowed us to do was it allowed us to present training on smartphones and tablets. And so we were the first municipality to move our training from behind the firewall to the cloud. And actually last month we received a national award because we thought so far out of the box. But by moving our performance management, and that's the next thing that we're doing, our performance management system will also be in the cloud, and that is scheduled to go online sometime in October. And so by revamping the performance management system, emphasizing those SMART goals, standardizing the behavior factors that we had, we made it much more simpler for people to, because we said if you either complete this task or you don't complete this task. We made it much simpler for people to get performance reviews done. You're welcome. Yes, ma'am. You got to get to the microphone so they can hear you.
You mentioned something that when you got to the city, you had a large staff and that you were able to hone it down to, I guess, where it was like 1 to 120. That's really impressive. My question is, when you were on the journey to get there, how did you frame the reduction to people who might not make it with you to the end, to get their buy-in to implement the changes that you were introducing in order to get the staff size into more manageable, efficient size?
So that's a very good question, and framing is so important in how you communicate things. One of the things that we knew is that we were going to have a reduction in force. And we knew that some people were going to have to leave the organization. But when we started talking about the people that we wanted to bring into HR, one of the things that we did was we interviewed everybody. And then we took the people who we felt best matched the needs of what we were looking for as an organization. And unfortunately, some people didn't have the skill sets that we were looking for, and those were some of the people who were casualties of the layoff. But what we also found is that organizations, some of those departments had people classified as HR people, but they weren't doing 100% of the HR work. They might have been doing 49% HR work. And so those were people we said, okay, I'm not taking your timekeeping, for instance. So you keep your timekeeper, and we'll figure out how to do the HR portion of that job here inside of our organization. And that was all done by creating a shared services model where we were able to, somewhere in there it talked about moving of resources. So one of the things that I learned at UPS is about how to manage, and I didn't tell you this, I managed operations longer than I was in HR. And so I was an operator before I was an HR person, but I learned how to manage operations. And one of the things that you always learn about in operations is if somebody is getting hit, that means someplace in the organization there's some available resources or some capacity. And so we were able to start flexing our workforce once we got everybody up under the same umbrella. And in the parks department in the summertime, for instance, we have to hire 600 people in a short period of time so the pools can be staffed and the grass can get cut. But we also found that there may have been a lull or some capacity in another part of the organization. And so we were able to flex those people over there to help with that type of hiring. And so that's what we've been able to do. But some people were given back to the organizations that they came from because they didn't perform 100% HR duties. And some people were actually let go. So, other questions? I'm just going to start playing the Jeopardy music in just a second. So thank you for coming up.
Well, thank you very much, because I've actually done a lot of research on some of the concepts that you're talking about, and particularly on relationships, that it's all about the relationships. And
yes.
So in that, on your journey, when you're focusing there on trying to build that relationship, relationships built on trust, improved communication, and improved productivity, how did you find the time to do that? And know that we have a responsibility as university staff members. We're also the role models for our students to build that relationship. So how do you do that? Or what suggestions do you have that we could do that as university and for our students?
So you've obviously got to prioritize. Sure. And as a leader, you've got to be a role model for what you're trying to change the culture to if you want it to be successful. Because no matter how many times you say, don't smoke, if you every 5 minutes are out there smoking, people say he's smoking, so why do we care about what he says? And so when you talk about finding the time, Bill Gates, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, and me and you all have something in common. And I'm tall, dark, and handsome, and you're not. So, it's not that for sure. It's not that for sure. But we all only have 24 hours in a day. And the question, no matter how rich Bill Gates is, he can't make more than 24 hours in a day. And no matter how powerful the president is, he can't make more than 24 hours in a day. And so you've got to figure out, how do you utilize that time? We have two assets in life. One is time and one is money. The one that we're actually running out of is time. And so I have become a time fanatic. Just so you know, this morning at 3 o'clock y'all time, I was up working out. But it was 5 o'clock Houston time, so it's on my normal schedule. But it was actually, I utilize time. I don't waste time. And so you've got to figure out how to master that time and how to prioritize those things that are important. And people are paying attention to what you say, but also they're paying more attention to what you do. And so that's how we were able to do it. Just had to make the time to take those meetings. And I've said repeatedly at the City of Houston, I'm 100% responsible for the environment and the things that are created. So if something goes bad, I take the blame automatically, even if one of my people were to blame, because I'm 100% responsible for everything that goes on inside of the department. But that also comes with a level of accountability. And so I've learned at my 24 years at UPS in management how to hold people accountable and get results that you're trying to drive through the organization. So it's all about prioritization. It's all about accountability. It's all about the results that you want to see and what's your time window for seeing those results.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you tell us about the compensation policies that were related to the implementation of your new employee evaluation system?
And so we really didn't change a lot of compensation policies. For the last 4 years, our contract with our union has been for across-the-board increases. And so we've just given an across-the-board increase. Now this year, one of the things that we are looking at, because we are falling further and further behind the market by giving those across-the-board increases, is starting to do some targeted increases for those areas that we find are furthest behind from a market competitive perspective. And so this year, as a matter of fact, we're going to give a presentation to our union on Friday about here's where some people are, because the people at the high end of the scale, they never suffer when you give across-the-board increases. But those people at the lower end of the scale tend to suffer more because they aren't making up as much ground when you start talking about compensation practices and compensation philosophy. So before this year, I'm going to be honest, we really didn't even have a compensation philosophy. It was, okay, here's what we're going to do. And so we really started focusing in 2014 on what did we want our compensation philosophy to do. We did a comp study in 2014. We got those results back, and now we're able to see where we are from a market competitiveness perspective. And so we started that work, and we'll see what our union says about it this upcoming Friday. Okay. I feel like Marco Rubio, so just let me.
Can you talk about the leadership development programs that you started?
And so we have two leadership. We have a citywide leadership development program that was in place when I got to the city. Prior to my arrival, one of the things that we looked at was a graduation rate from that leadership development program. There were probably at max, I think the max that we ever had graduate from that leadership development program was about 60. And so I started talking to the executive team about how are we going to continue to build a city if 22,000 people work here, if we graduate 60 people from our leadership development program. And so when I started talking to them about that, I said, here's our goal. And our first year after I started talking about it, we had 180 people graduate. So we really started focusing on leadership and putting people through a 10-month program of all different types of leadership skills that you need to be successful. Internally, inside of my department, I created an emerging leader program for those people who may not go through the leadership development program, but we also believe had some leadership potential. And once a quarter, they meet with me after we've read a book. So we read a book, they meet with me, and we sit down and we talk about that book over a lunch. And so that's our emerging leader program. But I'm always talking about leadership. I told you, or maybe I didn't tell you, I gave a book to everyone in our department called Stepping Up, and it was talking about how to become a better leader. And so one of the things that I read a lot. I'm always reading something. And those books help me form ideas that I try to push out to the entire organization. And whether it's on healthcare or leadership, I'm always reading something. Generally, try to read about 2 books a month. Other questions? We're going to go ahead and get started on the workshop portion. I am excited to see all the energy that is in the room right now, and all the great things that are happening here. And thank you for participating in this workshop portion. One of the things that John Maxwell says is that change is inevitable, growth is optional. So, as you start on this journey as a organization, as a university, remember that quote. I'm going to start off a little bit different, maybe than previous workshops that you've been in. And I'm going to actually start off with a video that will sort of put us in the mindset of change being inevitable and growth being optional. So if you could ring up that video there, sir. Okay, so as you can imagine, we're going to be talking about change and how you deal with change and how change affects the organization. The first thing that we're going to do is fill out a change resiliency profile. So on your desk somewhere is a change, or at the table is a change resiliency profile. So if you would take 5 minutes to fill out that change resiliency profile, we'll go over the scores. So if we can start reporting out by table, and if you hear something that sounds like something somebody else already said, you don't have to say it. If you hear something that is unique or new or something like that, then you probably want to bring that point up. I think you guys have done a great job. And you want to start over there? Okay. I didn't know where we were going to start, but we've got volunteers. Let's start with the group that wants to start first. What did you come up with? Now, hold on. We got to make sure that you are on the video. So can you? This is important. We're videoing this, so we need you to move over. Oh, okay. They're taking the mic to you, so you're good. No, we're bringing the mic over there, and the camera will change over to you.
So we came up with a couple of different concepts when we first started working on it. There was a lot of things that came up, focusing on the negative, about how time-consuming it could be. That would it be a process where we may not be heard? There's that fear of the unknown, and that there could be some resistance to that buy-in for it. But then we started focusing on other components of it. Is that this would be an opportunity if we have clear goals. There is the opportunity for growth. There's hope. And that was a critical thing for us, is that to have hope during the change, for efficiency to be the success of that, was really important for us. It was about the time that was being put into it, to know that that we're going to be able to have a time to address problems that were going on, and to be aware that there were problems that were going on. Because if we weren't aware, then we wouldn't realize that there's something that had to be fixed. But if it could then be fixed, we could be better. And we'll leave some time for other people to share some good things as well, too.
Okay. Next table that wants to go. Okay, table 10, I think.
Hi. I don't know where I'm supposed to be looking, but...
The camera's back there. There he is back there.
Okay.
So,
okay, so we did this
He can't see you.
Okay,
now he can see you.
There we go. Let me change this.
There you go. All right.
Okay, thank you very much. No. Okay. So we did the buzzwords, and we started with the positive here, and then we had the negative on the other side. But we thought about, for the negative, that would be very scary to a lot of people. There's a lot of perception, insecurity, loss, disruption. This old adage is, we've always done it this way, and that's going to completely rock that, and we didn't want that. Fear of failure, added work. We had a level of input, and we kind of crossed that from positive to negative, because if it's a fair amount of input, then it would be positive, obviously, as opposed to if we're not getting any communication at all, you might feel differently. So that goes with the lack of information. On the positive side, development opportunities, new learning experience, opportunity, efficiencies, many of the same things that were said at the first table. So anyway, thank you.
Okay, as soon as I think she took the mic, we're coming up here next. So we're moving away from the back, moving up here to the front next. Go ahead.
Okay, so for our negatives,
You got to hold the microphone closer.
we started with scared. People could be worried, nervous about the impact on their workflow. Rumors could start and gossip. There would be uncertainty. People may feel anxiety. The positives, we thought there would be a good opportunity for training and development, and people would be hopeful, and there would be growth. There would be new opportunities for promotions. New efficiencies would be developed. There would be more team building and organizational understanding and understanding each other and what your role is. Better communication, networking, and excitement.
Thank you. So one of the things that I will ask you to do, and you need to get the microphone, sir. You got to go back there and get the mic. You got to. Sorry, and that's just the way it works. One of the things that I would ask that you would do as you are listening to people read through their list, especially on the negative side, is start thinking about some of the things that you can take ownership of personally to overcome some of the problems that are being established. And I'm not going to ask you to report back or some of the negative things that are being established. But if you think about what I said earlier about leadership being personal and not positional, all these things that are getting read off on the negative side, somebody's going to approach you with them. Or somebody may approach you with them. Or you may be the person approaching everybody else with them. And the question is, what are you going to do when somebody approaches you with some of these negative things? And you've been in this workshop, you've had the experience, you're the leader, what are you going to do? What are you going to say? So think about some of the scenarios in your mind on some of the things that you're going to do to overcome some of these negatives that we're talking about when change is introduced. Okay, go ahead, sir. I apologize.
I feel like man white here. Okay, so I'm just going to read off some of the things that we're going to add to the list of things that people have already given. And as we were having this discussion, the interesting point was that we found that there were more things that we could add that were positive, and that we really had to think about those things that were negative. So starting with that, we find that it will make people feel uncomfortable, change. People will be resistant to change. There will be fear regarding change. And this last one works on two sides. For the negative part, it allows you to identify those folks who are less flexible. But on the positive side, you're able to identify those folks who are more flexible. And adding to the positive pile, it can be freeing for a lot of people. So you're unrestrained. It's something new, and you're probably going to get more knowledge out of it. Speculation balances on both sides. Speculation could be negative, but it could also be very positive. It'll bring out leadership in people. It'll also bring innovation, variety, anticipation, and last but not least, excitement.
Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Okay, it looks like we're running out of some of the more original ones. But one thing that we found that we pointed out was the word challenging. It goes both ways. Some people really like a challenge. Some people think challenge is a negative word. So we have it on both sides here. Lack of engagement is a problem on the negative side, obviously. Some people find change to be exhausting or tiring. And disappointment was one of the negative ones, where people feel that they've somehow lost something in the change, or they're not involved, or they don't like what's happening. On the positive side, we have possible financial benefit, both to the organization and to the individuals involved in it, as well as encouraging participation. People find it energizing, collaboration and trust increases, hopefully, and those are all that we have.
So one of the things that thank you, ma'am. One of the things that you hear over and over when you start talking about change is that one of the reasons that people are resistant to change is because they feel like they're losing something. That's a common thing that you'll hear when you start going through a change management process. And your job as leaders is to, how do you combat that? How do you make people feel that they're not losing something, but they may actually be gaining something? So, one of the things that I said when we started going through our change management process at the city was, okay, we're going to change some of the ways that we do things, but nobody's going to lose their job. And so I kind of put it in that context. Yeah, your job responsibilities may change. You may be doing X today, and tomorrow you may have to do Y, but you're still going to have a job. And so that was one of the mechanisms that I used to try to make people more comfortable when we started talking about change, because I saw on some people's paper, well, one of the things is a loss of a job. But if you can reassure people, just because we're changing job responsibilities, you may be opening up some new opportunities. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Well, good afternoon. From our table, table 6, as we're taking a look at the word change, at the very top of our con list, we said that we were worried about top-down decisions. But at the very same time, we knew that that was a part for improvement and growth. On our pro side, we also said that it would be a good for cost savings, user-friendly, and opportunities and a clear shared vision among the organization. Again, on the con, low morale and a stressful situation for everyone, but we concluded with that it would be an opportunity for exciting and a rewarding environment for everyone.
Okay, thank you very much.
All righty. So we had some
Hold on,
similar.
can you see our cameraman? Can you see her? Okay, he can see you. All right.
Hello. Right here. Okay.
Make sure.
All right. So now we had some of the same things that many of the tables had. On our positive side, we have exciting, something new. Woohoo! We have it's creative, a new opportunity. It's opportunistic. We have innovative, growth. It's a time for us to reach, to move. We have flexible, results, and adding value and collaboration. And as far as our negative side, we have fear. I'm scared. I don't know if I can do this. Loss of a job, loss of status, loss of control. We have, they won't accept it. That term that we commonly hear, they won't accept it. We have a loss of productivity. I'm anxious. We have anxiety now. Sometimes there may be retaliation. Well, I'm going to get you. You want me to change? I'm going to get you. So that's another one. Is it necessary? Is change just the buzzword for today? Are we really doing the change to be proactive and actually make it meaningful and purposeful? And then we also had risk. And am I forced to change? Am I doing this because someone has asked me to do it and I'm being made to do it? I'm forced to change. So those were some of the things we had for our positive and negative.
Good job. Thank you very much.
Hi, we just had a few to add here to the rest of the results. So on the negative side, we had unstable environment. I don't know if that one had come up before. And then on the positive side, things to add, we had that this could be an empowering experience. It allows an opportunity for one to leave your imprint, an opportunity for adrenaline. So those were some things.
Thank you.
Are you guys next?
Okay, so
some of the negatives that we had were there's barriers, but on the positive side, we can break those barriers. Other negatives, so many were said. Let's see. Some of us might feel like it stops the process. So the ball will be rolling, and then all of a sudden this change will come, and it'll stop everything, and we'll feel like, well, it's hard to get it started again, so we're resistant because of that. We have, I think sometimes there's a cultural norm to be resistant to change in general. Even if individually you feel like, yeah, I would love to change, but it's kind of normal to be resistant to the change. Other positives would be we can improve goodwill. We have a chance to have a blank slate so we can start over, start something new. And then we would like to become a department of yes instead of department of no. And
you're picking on me. Was that?
And then, in life without change is pretty dull, so it kind of make it exciting. People have already said that too. Is there anything else? And just working with new people and thinking outside the box and exploring new land.
Okay, thank you.
We had a few new ones here, maybe. One on the negative is concern about rearranging the deck chairs. That if is it real change or is it just turmoil versus true transformation? That was a positive opportunity for transformation. We also talked about potential losses that can come, loss of existing value, loss of the history, loss of institutional identity, and also personal identity, and concern that sometimes with change, existing things that are of value just get disregarded and not appreciated. On the positive side, we had the opportunity for stimulation, that change can be stimulating. And also we talked about how change is inevitable, and so if you're embracing it, use opportunity to stay abreast and in front of the change and be proactive. And we talked about opportunities for new efficiencies and for eliminating redundancies.
Okay, let's go through one more table, and then we're going to have to move forward. One more table. Okay, let's go through one more, and then we'll move forward.
Okay, just a couple. We've tried this before, right? We've done something like this before in the past. Didn't turn out that well. So are we just repeating an idea that was not so great 10 years ago, maybe? Is it sustainable? So we're going to do all this work. Is it something that's going to be sustainable long term and really carry us forward into the future? And is this being done in a vacuum? So is it just a small group of people that are making all these changes, or is the whole campus involved in it, and including all the stakeholders? On the positive side, we talked about innovation, improved leadership. It makes us more competitive and gives us an opportunity for growth and better efficiencies.
Thank you. Thank you. Two things that I heard come out of a lot of the dialogue around the room that seemed pretty consistent. One was fear. Fear of failure, fear of new things, fear of experimenting, fear of this. And can anybody in the room tell me what faith and fear have in common? What do faith and fear have in common? A future that hasn't happened. So whether you have faith that something is going to happen or whether you're fearful that something, more than likely the future has not happened. And one of the things that I talk to my organization about all the time is failure. So faith, fear, and failure. And one of the things that we have to be ready to do as an organization, if we're going to move forward, is we have to be ready to fail. Now you don't want to fail. You want to fail smartly. You don't want to fail, but you want. If you're going to move forward as an organization, you have to be prepared to fail, and you have to be prepared to say, just because we've always done it that way doesn't mean that that's the best way to do it. But then there has to be some accountability to everyone in this room But there also has to be accountability from the leadership in this room. And you guys, to a certain extent, have to hold those leaders accountable to what they're trying to implement and making sure that they are walking the same talk that they're talking. I talked about it a little bit earlier. And so we're going to move on to, I think we probably should move to the change cycle PowerPoint. So let me move to that's not it. I'm going to talk about a change that we implemented in the city of Houston because I think we're running out of time. Yes, my timekeepers are telling me we're running out of time. And so I want to make sure that I go through this onboarding presentation. One of the things that I think you all talked about here as a group in a workshop was the hiring process. And maybe you did, maybe you didn't. So somebody's shaking their head. You did talk about the hiring process. And so we're going to talk about the hiring process for a few minutes in the city of Houston and what it was like before and what it is like now for us to bring new people on in the city of Houston. And so city of Houston processes about 1,500 new hires a year. Prior to electronic onboarding, new hires spent about 4.5 hours to complete pre-employment activities. Now, think about this. You're a new hire, you're coming into the organization, and all of a sudden you've got to be 4.5 hours to go through new hire processing. That's pretty bad. Most of you would agree. That's pretty challenging. There were 9 new hire forms in the packet, and each one of those forms was, guess what? Paper. A paper form. And so what did we do? We decided that we were going to change our new hire process and reduce the time to complete employment activities on site, reduce the amount of paper. You can see streamline the back end and improve the customer experience. Because remember, I talked about this is about the customer, not about the HR department. And the experience that the customer has when they come on board to the organization is what? It's one of the first impressions they get of the organization. So you want to make sure that you have something that is quick, easy for the new hires and for the internal staff. So we had to do a form replacement. We started looking at the processes and all the forms. And the first thing we said, do we need all of these forms? What is the purpose of each one of these forms? But also, can we make the form electronic? And as you start talking about, I know you talked about lean. Part of lean is looking at taking some of the waste out, and some of the waste that we certainly found was some of the forms. So we created a checklist, and you can see the things that were on the checklist that we needed to go through. And then we created this landing page. So all people who want a job with the city of Houston ultimately end up on this landing page. And I think we can we play that video? Or is it a video? Play that video. It's a login? Okay, I'm sorry. All right, so here's some of the feedback. Let me keep going. Here's some of the feedback we got from our customers. I can't read that, and I'm hoping you can. But if you can look at it, you go from unsatisfied to very satisfied. Most of those bars are very satisfied on the ability to complete forms and everything else on there. Overall satisfaction with the onboarding process after we moved to our new process is most people are satisfied with our process. And we wanted to get that feedback from our employees who were coming on board after we started the onboarding, after we re-engineered our onboarding process. If you look at how long it takes people now, about 10 to 20 minutes to go through completing the forms online. Those people who are taking more than an hour, don't tell them. We probably don't want them with the organization, okay? So, but don't tell them. Take that part out the video, please. All right. But the forms are very simple. It should not take you more than an hour to complete those forms. All right. 80% satisfaction rate. 20,000 pieces of paper have been taken out of the organization per year. Reduction of time, higher spend on site for pre-employment. So that's a little how we have revamped our onboarding process, and we now have a video. So we're going to go back one time. We're going to go back one time, and I'm going to show you the forms that we have. If they can get me back here. Okay, so to the right there on the right-hand side, you can see the forms that we now use that were paper forms before. But if you can see the employee information form, the I-9 direct deposit form, all of those forms are now filled out electronically online. And as we're bringing somebody on, we absolutely know when they have completed the form because there's a date when the form has been completed. And so we took a very inefficient process, our onboarding process, and this was what we were able to do from a lean perspective. We have a white paper that we will pass out to you. Are there any questions about what we were able to do? I think we're just about out of time, so I don't want to keep you any longer. So I will wrap up and say, people, are there any questions? Questions? No questions? You all want to go home? Okay, no. I understand. People change when they hurt enough that they have to. People change when they have enough information that they're able to. And people change when they learn enough that they're empowered to. So the question becomes, which one of those people will you be? Will you be the person that they have to bring the pain to make you change? Some people are there. Will you be the person that learns and changes? Or will you be the person who enables others and empowers others to? I thank you, UC Riverside, for this opportunity to come out here and speak to you today. It has been my pleasure to share with you some of the things going on and to participate in this workshop. Thank you very much.
Good job. Thank you. Now we're almost done. We need a little debrief here at your tables. If there are other things that the ambassadors need to close up with you, I would ask that you have those conversations. And at the end, as people leave, I would ask that the ambassadors, as we typically do, to huddle with this. I also want to invite those of you who are not now ambassadors but aspire to be, that the door is open. This is that moment in church when the minister says, "You want to come down and join?" This is that moment. So I want to invite you. We cannot have too many ambassadors. So don't think that because we have 25 or 30 or 40 now that we have enough. We do not have enough, because this is just the beginning. We're approaching just passing the halfway point of this phase of what we are involved in. To give you a little bit of a preview, many of you have heard before of what comes next. Another 3 or 4 weeks from now, we'll have our next and final of the 4 speaker series, and we're invited. The University of California, San Francisco is going to come down and speak with us. We soon after then, May the 26th is the date. I'm certainly hoping that this room is over capacity at that time. There is not a requirement to have participated in any of the sessions to participate in the May the 26th meeting. That is the meeting where we're going to roll our sleeves up and we're going to do the broad outline of our way forward. Oftentimes, this is not the way these things are done. Oftentimes, these things are done by the chancellor and other select people who are sitting in a corner and deciding how we're going to do it and then unveil it. Well, actually, what we're going to do is turn that mindset on its head. We are going to sit around the table here in this room, and we're going to figure out the way forward, and then we will be delivering that to the chancellor to say the people have spoken. This is how we want to proceed with our organizational excellence. And these meetings that we've had one more to take place in another couple of weeks. Those meetings were to inform us. There's a whole bunch of other things that we can read. Omar mentioned several books. I encourage us to do that, and I encourage you to engage in conversations with your friends. If you're excited and motivated by what you're experiencing, and I can only interpret what I've seen as though you are, I really, really need, as I've said in all the other previous meetings, don't keep it a secret. It is really important for you to talk to and tell everyone that you're interested in, other folks that you know would like to participate in this. Most of us know about the 6 degrees of separation. Well, we actually have in this room now a critical mass, and there is no one on this campus that some of us is not in touch with. So right now, the number of people that we have in this campus, we are actually in touch with everyone else in the campus. So if we start talking about this, we can build an excellent conversation on campus about our commitment to transforming our university to go to a much, much better place. And as we always like to try to do, before we break, does anyone have any questions at all about the way forward, or any questions or comments about what we've done to this point? Last time I asked that question, 2 or 3 people came up to me afterwards and said, I should have, I don't want, please, does anyone have any questions or comments? Please, thank you.
'26 and present is accepted by the chancellor, by the administration, and acted on?
That's an interesting question. I can guarantee you that if it's worthy of consumption, it will be accepted. If we come up with something that is not worthy of consumption, I can also guarantee you it won't be accepted. Okay? So what we need to guarantee is on us. We need to produce something that is worthy of consumption. Other questions, comments, please. Thanks so much for, please, there's nothing off limits. That's a wonderful question. Any questions or comments? Okay, I will take that as that everyone is satisfied. So please, no, everyone is not satisfied. Please, Lily, please. I would assume as well, and I don't know. I can't tell you what that's going to. I don't know the answer to this test question. Well, there is. My view is that we need to do it as soon as possible, and so we need to assign a sense of urgency to what it is. What I'm sensing from our being here, there's a level of frustration, a level of people. Let's get moving. Let's change things. I mean, all the things that we talked about change, that says we're ready to do it. So we don't need to make this a slow dance. We can decide to do it. So I asked you between now and then to start thinking about how we would like to see whatever it is we want to put in place. Please.
RSVP, will there be an RSVP for the one on the 26th, like the other ones that have come out? We haven't seen it.
I can't say
the one that's coming out on the 26th, is there going to be an opportunity to RSVP?
Oh, absolutely.
No,
absolutely. We will be inviting folks just as we have before, and we will we'll certainly be asking for RSVP so that we can get a handle on how many people to accommodate. God, this is great. Thanks so much for starting that question. Did I see another hand? I did. Okay, you were definitely there. Please.
Yeah, great. I would just really like to thank you for including us in this process. It's the first time I've been involved in something like this with new administration, and it's exciting to me.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very, very much for that comment and for that acknowledgement. it is a chancellor that I think we all should thank. He is invested, and if you've heard him talk, you've heard his energy. He's been very, very particular about the people that he has selected to be on his leadership team. And you will find that we all look quite differently, but if you open up on the inside, we all pretty much the same on the inside. And I'm sure you can hear and feel my excitement about being here because of that. And so we are the new folks and the folks that have been here. We are of one mind. And what we can do now is to put a very, very sharp point on that. And I want you to be impatient. I really do. I'm going to not be real happy if we show up on the 26th and say, yeah, we could do this or we could do that, and if we can get it done by Christmas or next year, that'd be fine. No. We need to really put the pedal to the metal, which means that somebody's going to say, well, we can't do all this new stuff and do all this old stuff that we've been doing. Right. So maybe we ought to offboard some of that old stuff. We don't have to keep doing everything. We got a 5-pound bag. We can't put 10 pounds in it. And we need to make sure that stuff that we put in the bag is that stuff that is worthy. Other questions or comments? Thank you so much for starting. Oh, look at that. I can't shut you guys down now. What you got? Please. No, come, right here.
Just want to make sure that we have an opportunity to really include students in the process as we're going through, and to know that we're here to serve those students, and that we really give an opportunity for our students to be included in the process, to know about, one, that we're getting feedback from them, what needs to be changed, but then they can help us through that process, say, here are sustainable solutions to that change that we need to be the most outstanding university in the world.
Yeah, that's a wonderful comment. And when we started on this journey, it was we sent out the invitations to everybody. Y'all could come. Everybody could come, to include students. We have had 1 or 2 students that come to the previous meetings. We also have had. I don't think we have any. We may have 1 or 2 faculty members here, but I'm not. Are any faculty members here willing to identify themselves? Yeah. Okay, but we did have. But that doesn't suggest that they are not interested. I have spent quite a bit of time talking to the student leadership, the 2 presidents we have of the graduate and undergraduate assembly. They are directly involved in some of the other initiatives that we have, and we will make sure that they get their oar in the water as we get a little bit further down the road. So they don't have to worry about being, they will not be excluded, and if they don't take the initiative to come, I will go looking for them. Okay. Other questions, comments, please. You're fidgeting. You got that? No? Okay. Well, I think so. If you have some other debrief comments amongst your table, please do that. Otherwise, I want to again thank you all very, very much for your active participation. Thank you.